Welcome back to Little Birdie. I'm your host Scoot with my co-pilot Dicko. It's slowly becoming the highlight of my week, which is really scary. I leave the house most mornings to go for a little trot and canter, get a coffee, and then I'm back into the cave to bet and work all day. But on Thursdays, I get to see my man Dicko.
I'm tipping it's a brisk walk at best. It's a different world we're living in. It is the highlight of the week, getting out of the cave and venturing into the big smoke to see little Scooty, who, punters I can update, is angrier than normal. He does sort of carry around a bit of baggage as a rule, but today seems to be extreme. I'm starting to get a little bit concerned about him, which is why I've enlisted the help of a man who is a professional at many things in life, but what he's best at is handling self-isolation. I talk of Ross Brodie. He debuts today on the show. He comes on to give us just a little bit of an insight and some tips, and he'll be tipping things strong, and he'll be laying things, and he'll be giving us all the good information of how best to handle this self-isolation life. We're talking TV, food, gaming, whatever he wants. His lifestyle tips are coming up on this show. What else we got, Scooty?
Oh, there's plenty going on. We've got Jake Norton from Melbourne Racing Club up first. He's going to talk all things betting from Clubland. So that'll be an interesting chat. Hopefully it doesn't put some of our listeners to sleep. We've got Sydney Racing's probably really big at the moment still. We'll dabble in Adelaide. Our man Curly up in Brisbane will find us a winner. We were a bit unlucky with a couple of tips last week, so there's a lot of pressure on Snowy. I've got some really good mail about Snowy too. Speaking of exercise, I've got good word that he's been sighted once or twice holding hands doing laps around the tan. So let's put him under the griller today.
I'll have to report him.
Yeah, he was definitely breaching the 1.5 metre rule, and I know for a fact that he does not live with this woman.
And after Benetoy just stopped like shot there last week at Caulfield on the monorail, which it was actually on the monorail.
Oh, yeah.
And he was so bullish about it, and he threw in a little word that shits me more than most, is when someone champs someone else, especially over the phone. Like, it's a low thing to do. I reckon he's $1.20 not to champ me this weekend on this week's show.
Yeah, he might have got a little bit of an egg flip from me there. We know how to push your buttons, so let's push the button on Little Birdie and let's get stuck into this week's show. Jake Norton from MRC joins us on the line. Welcome to the show, Jake.
Hello, Scoot. G'day, Dicko. Boys, just before we get rolling, I just wanted to congratulate you on your grouse work with Little Birdie so far. You're off to a flyer, so well done.
Thank you.
We've just we're starting to lose the L plates. We might be on the provisionals. We had to have a naughty slip from SEN to get to the show just in case the cops pulled us over, which is interesting in these times, and it's probably the same case for you guys on course. We're in lockdown. We might start with Jack opening the batting with a question about the track.
So, Jake, over the last sort of 3 to 4, 5 meetings, the Caulfield track's raced one way or the other, fair bias. We've had an array of weather sort of leading up to each meeting. We had heavy rain last week, whereas it might have been sort of too much artificial water week previously. Are you guys concerned at all with the way it's racing, and are you looking into like why it's racing as it is? And I'm not complaining at all. I understand it's a very hard thing to arrange, and the more biased the track is, the better it is for someone like me. But I'd imagine that as an organisation, you'd be a bit disappointed with how it's played.
Oh, no doubt about it, Dicko. I mean, Blue Diamond Day in particular, the fact that it was very, very difficult to make ground on that day, which was very well publicised, was really disappointing for all of us. But it was a bit of a head scratcher, to be honest, because we had, rather than having, an abundance of artificial watering, we had a heap of rain early in the week, up to midweek in the week leading in. We had, like, off the top of my head, 50 or 60 mils between the Friday, sort of 8 days before the race meeting, and to, say, the Wednesday or Thursday. So where we would ordinarily irrigate late in the week or mechanically soften the track or provide give through a Birdie drain or aeration, we didn't do that week. And it was a warmish day on Blue Diamond Day, and the track, sort of baked throughout the afternoon. And while that happened, the area sort of toward the inside of the track, we think probably compacted and just became quicker generally throughout the afternoon. So, in hindsight, we would have Birdie drained on the Thursday or Friday, or certainly midweek, weather pending. So that was definitely disappointing. Last week, probably not quite as concerned about. Obviously the majority of winners came from, the front end of the field. There were really good performances from midfield and worse. Obviously, Diamond Effort was one of those, but she was probably just a cut above that field. And there were a couple of other good runs, from the rear in races. But I'm loath to be too critical of track men, at the best of times really, but certainly when they've had a deluge of rain in the preceding 24, 48 hours, which is what occurred last Saturday. So, I certainly take your point, and we're not happy with generally how the track has performed in the last few meetings, but we think we've got a better handle on things kind of going forward. All track managers have had to get their heads around and come to terms with a relatively new track policy, which we're continuing to manage.
Do you think that the new track policy is likely the main thing that's changed? Because the same track staff have prepared outstanding tracks at Caulfield for a very, very long time, and the only thing I can see that's different is that they've asked, Racing Victoria's asked them to present a track with more give.
Yeah, look, I mean, you're right. That's the major difference between now and, say, 12 months ago and beyond. But I think we're still playing around with what is the best approach in terms of, whether you Birdie drain more often and potentially irrigate less, or whether you irrigate overnight the day before a race meeting, your rail movements and things like that. So I think it has been a bit of a process of education for our guys, but I'm supremely confident. I mean, look, the way that the track performed on All-Star Mile Day, for instance, we were really pleased with, and tinkered with a few things post Blue Diamond ahead of that meeting. I drew a line through last week because of the weather, but I think probably the benchmark of how we approach things in fair conditions is All-Star Mile, and I thought we got that right. Rail goes back in this weekend, so look, I'm hoping we get winners from all sort of barriers and all positions in running, and that we get fair racing, and we find plenty of winners and the right horses are winning. That's probably most important.
It should be a good test this weekend.
Big
fields.
Always a little bit of trepidation, but no, I'm confident we've got the track in really good order.
I'd sort of agree. Looking back 18 months ago, I remember Caulfield playing exceptionally well, and I thought it was one of the best playing tracks in Melbourne. So I guess, the ball's back in Racing Victoria's court, and I think it needs continual review, the current state of the policy, and I think punters would be very happy for it to get changed to the old way, and punters are what's driving the industry, especially at the moment. And let's talk about that. Tabcorp are in freefall at the moment with the retail venues closed up. How are you guys coping? You guys have diversified some of your assets and are invested in pubs and clubs. Has that been a wise move, or is there still a bit of pain now that they've been shut down as well, Jake?
It was a wise move until now, Scoot, because while other racing clubs might have, the staff perspective is probably the major thing. If we're trying to look after hundreds of staff, whereas other racing clubs, because they have a more singular business model, have fewer. And while we have an excellent business when things are going well, it has been difficult to manage because we've got a dozen pubs and clubs, and they've all got numerous staff, and everyone's in limbo at the moment. So it certainly has been a challenge, but certainly couldn't criticise the club's diversification strategy that's occurred over the last decade or so, because it's enabled us to pump money back into racing through prize money and through investment in tracks and technology and stuff like that. But it certainly has been a challenge and remains a challenge ongoing. We've got pubs and until recently a French bakery and property development, and everything's kind of gone on hold other than our racing business, which is great in one respect, that we've been able to continue racing. But for a club that generates a lot of its revenue through non-racing pursuits, plus being fundamentally a member-based organisation, and our members can't attend the races at the moment, has been a real challenge. But we're fortunate in one respect that we have, land assets and sort of strong businesses that we can sort of lend against. So, cash flow is going to be a challenge for all racing organisations and racing clubs, but thankfully we've put ourselves in a reasonably strong position to weather it.
Yeah, it's a really interesting time because with TAB losing the retail turnover, it's like a small, say, sports bet that have just disappeared. So the revenue going back to racing has dried up, and that puts me onto another point. A little birdie told me that there's a lot of pressure at the moment with the Tabcorp joint venture initiative, and then money lost through sports betting turnover of all things to fund racing prize money and to go back into racing coffers. From a modelling perspective, do you think that's a flawed model for racing to rely on sports betting turnover to fund the industry and therefore prize money and other initiatives?
I don't think it necessarily relies on it, but that money from sports betting certainly is a large chunk of JV revenue. But whilst that the Tabcorp JV, which you've got to remember, that's a state government license. So it's not as if it's sort of something that racing could necessarily choose. Is that model? It's mandated by the state government and was 8 or 9 years ago as part of the granting the retail exclusivity and tote license to Tabcorp. But certainly it does take a hit. Racing takes a hit when sport is offline. So whilst it probably isn't necessarily as drastic an impact on racing's coffers as it is specifically for Tabcorp, there's no doubt that the model should potentially be looked at and addressed because it's up for renewal in 2024. But in saying that, when times are good, you don't want racing missing out on that strong revenue from sports betting and other wagering mediums as well. So, I guess we're trying to address that issue in this particular time. But, if you had asked me the same question a month ago, I would have said it's a brilliant model. So we're probably a product of the circumstances we're in right now.
Yeah, okay. The last one that I want to talk to you about, what about members? Has any members been putting their hand out and wanting a refund, a la Collingwood Football Club style?
It's a bit different for us because we're a August to July season, and most of the value that members would receive occurs in sort of October or through the spring carnival for us, and then again in February, and we got through that period. So I think most of our members probably believe that they've got their value for their membership for the year to some degree. There are, we had products in market that were 6 months memberships and 3 meeting memberships and things like that, and people who purchased those, that were specific to Blue Diamond, All-Star Mile and Mornington Cup and meetings like that. They have rightfully queried that, and we've offered refunds accordingly to those types of members and customers. But thankfully, we've got a really, really loyal base of members, and most of them have continued being really supportive of the club. We've kept in regular contact with them. The fact that we've been able to continue to race, I think, has given us something to keep talking to our members about. But what the next few months and next season looks like is going to be really interesting. But to date, we've had a lot of support from our members, and that continues for now.
From your inside knowledge, just to wrap up, when do you think there'll be people back through the gates and racing will open again? Are we talking Caulfield Cup Day or a couple of weeks into that, or do you think it's too up in the air?
I don't think it'd be particularly wise on my part to suggest a date or to speculate. But it sounds like if, or no, not if, but when some sort of normality is going to return to society, we're going to be kind of drip fed, and I think large gatherings are probably going to be quite late in the piece. So, look, I'd be surprised if we're allowed to have, and this is assuming that racing continues, ongoing, if we're allowed to have patrons at the races this spring carnival. I'd probably be surprised at this point in time, but I'd rather be conservative and cautious in that respect and be pleasantly surprised than be bullish about being able to have people attend the races in September. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think
God, if he exists, doesn't know.
No, I think, I definitely won't be watching Hawthorn play at the MCG, and you won't be watching your Bombers, and I don't think I'll be in the Medallion Bar having a schooner over the bar with you, Jake, for quite some time, which is heartbreaking. But thanks for joining us. Very insightful. We'll take the heat off the show. It sounds all a bit too serious at the moment. And big thanks to Jake, and we'll come back with Nick Tedeschi talking Hall of Fame. Thanks for joining us, Jake.
See you, boys.
Top Rope Tedeschi joins us for another episode of Hall of Fame Little Birdie style. Last week, lefty Phil Mickelson was in.
The Adonis cast, Mr. Rugby League, the man who loves PVL more than most, is back. How are you feeling about the sports revenue getting used to fund racing? Top Rope?
Look, I'm up for funding anything that will keep gambling alive right now. I'm up for anything. So,
couldn't Rugby League use that funding?
Rugby League could use the funding, but guess what? PVL slash costs. PVL is working his way through Rugby League, and it looks like he's going to get it back up and running by May 21. So, look, the great game is back, and only because of the great man and his wonderful leadership.
It's over to you, Scoot.
Now, Top Rope, I had a line there. But I don't know if I can say it.
It's not the mailbag. You can't.
No, I can't say it. I've got huge news about PVL, but I can't put it to air.
Allegedly.
Yeah.
Gamble responsibly.
Okay. Top Rope this week, Hall of Fame. Who's in the contention? I think that Wendy Roach could be in the Hall of Fame. She's trained a Doncaster winner with James Innes Jr. steering, and the horse is fueled by beer and
He looks
pizza.
like Fisher. He looks like Fisher, that DJ, the jockey.
It was a great performance.
Look, that is one of the great efforts, living on Palmer's, pizza and beer. That reminds myself of ages 21 to 33. It was flying, Wendy Roche. But definitely worthy of nomination. I think we have to get back to our bread and butter this week. We've gone out wide. We've gone with Boris in the table tennis a few weeks ago. We've gone with Lefty last week, doing his best to resurrect sports gambling. But look, the champs were on day one last week. Look, no doubt Wendy's a trainer. And if this was about personality, sure. But we were talking about from a punting perspective, it's got to be Rubisaki, doesn't it? It's got to be Patrick Payne. It's got to be Rubisaki. Just an absolute, I think you quoted us throughout the week, an ATM. All it is just dispenses cash. The last to get out, you're ahead, you're doubling down, you're behind, you're getting out. Rubisaki gets the cash.
You're gambling very responsibly.
Yeah, very responsibly. I can't get into Rubisaki.
Mate, I've just kept backing it. I agree with...
I backed her or him to win a Seymour Maiden at $8. So I find it hard now to chime in at sort of $2.60, bury back the fence, especially when Nash drawn inside after Nash was drawn the inside on Mammogram or whatever it was called, and he decided to be 15 wide cornering on the favourite. So I wasn't involved in it.
He thought he was Brad for a second.
That's what we call it a show. That'll be hard to top that one. Now, Rubisaki, she is airborne. She's an absolute mutter. She has got a big accelerator. I think she's worthy. And our good friends from Over the Ditch, Boys Get Paid, they had a whopping $70,000 of their Punters Club money. They've got a big bank. They had thousands of people in this betting competition, and Rubisaki lifted them out of the hole. So $70,000 at $2.50 in the Boys Get Paid Punters Club. I think it's worthy of a Hall of Fame mention. Thanks, Nick. 21st of May. Put that back in your calendar. You'll be back in Melbourne, and you'll be talking a rugby league.
Rugby league.
Rugby league.
We're going to throw to a break now. Bet rejected. It's time to sack your bookie and bet with a bookmaker you can trust. Topsport.com.au is the bookmaker we trust.
Betting to win $10K each race at Morpheville on Saturday, Scoot.
It's a huge...
$10K.
It's huge. And remember...
Couldn't get on to win $10 with most of those joints.
Exactly.
Plastics.
As long as you gamble responsibly, we're happy for you to bet with topsport.com.au. Welcome back to Little Birdie. We're here to talk North Korean racing. We've got our man, West's best, Pete Anthonisz. Pete is so good at betting. He had a great job at Sky Channel, and he gave them the lemonade and sauce. He's now punting full-time, and he's one of the mailbag's finest operators. Pete, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, boys. It's good to be here, live from the place that you guys will be no doubt playing on my PlayStation in about 2 hours' time.
Can you just inform the listeners as to what happened there last week when Australia somehow, I don't know how, but they did. They rolled Spain.
Before you get into that, I'd like to inform the viewers or the listeners that you two playing PlayStation is a bit like watching cavemen and Neanderthals trying to work out how to use tools. How do you shoot? And you're telling each other to press, different buttons. It was quite comical.
I tell you what, Jack fancies himself, right? And if that's the benchmark, I haven't played in about 10 years. He'll get an absolute whooping this Arvo.
Mate, Top Sport had a market. I'll be $1.15 each and every. It's like Winks.
Now, speaking of Winks, she won the Queen Elizabeth a couple of times. Pistol, let's get into race 8 at Randwick, day 2 of the championships.
Big prize money race this, the Queen Elizabeth. Funded by probably some rugby league turnover, but now we've had a big cut to the amount of cash, and it looks like a race has had a little bit of a cut itself. Peter, are you interested at all in the Queen Elizabeth?
Well, do you think the Japanese horse is coming here for $2 million? I feel sorry for the Japanese. They've come all this way. They're locked in Australia. They're sitting at the beach with their horse and not able to go home. This is a complete it's a nonny race. Like, this is a race for the narrative-driven non-betters that will spruik and say, I told you 6 months ago that Danon Premium or Adib or Ciurleo Shark would win this race. How can you bet here? Like, it's complete unknown. No one knows how the track's going to be wetness-wise, and that could completely destroy the Japanese horse's chances. Adib's obviously coming out of a pretty slowly run race there last start. Yes, it was tough at the end, but Ciurleo Shark, very elegant, Melody Bell, they've all got claims. Bowen Declare's a tough horse. Like, why are we betting in this race? It's a complete non-event. Just get rid of it.
Sounds like we're not betting. So we're going to head to race 5 and race 10, Peter. We're going to head to the Arrowfield Stakes, 3-year-olds, Group 2, 1,200 metres, 500 grand.
Look,
jeez, what's Rugby League doing up there? It's 500k race. Championships Day 2. Punters, something.
I think the only upside for Cosmic Force here is the fact that if he wins this race, it's a nice little addition to his potential stud value, but he's got strong SP over these. He wasn't suited last start. It was almost as if Bossy forgot he was in a race and was just sort of drifting him out the back there somewhere. Coming out of the Galaxy, where he SP'd a short favourite, he now gets gate 6. He's got J-Mac jumping on board. He just maps to sit in a perfect spot, and I'm anticipating lanes 3 to 4 on the straight. You don't want to be getting too much wider than that, especially in a shoot race. I think Cosmic Force is the best on the card for me, and I did notice conveniently that topsport.com.au was $4.80 earlier in the week. It's now into $3.60. I think he'll probably keep trending that way, and I wouldn't be surprised if he jumps about a $2.80, $2.90 chance.
Pete, if you want, you can just come in and take my position here because it looks like you're running this segment and not me. Let's talk about race 10, but I like the way you threw to topsport.com.au. Our sponsors love that sort of behaviour. The favourite in race 10 looks like it's Savatiano at $4.60 from Fasika at $5. Who do you like in this one, Pistol?
I'm actually lining up with Savatiano. I think Savatiano gets into a lovely spot here. It's got a strong SP as well. Again, J-Mac on board, he can pretty much dictate this event. So
friend of the
I'm
show.
not exactly sure. Exactly. Friend of the show, James McDonald, champion. But also there's another horse at a bit of a longer price that I'll also be including in this event, and that horse is Bangkok. It's coming off some monster splits there last start. Incredible close. Fastest last 200 on the day. Lovely spot from gate 5. I'll be playing Savatiano with something on Bangkok at the chubby price of 20 to 1 or greater.
Mate. I felt like you emphasised the cock part of that, and then you've had to throw in a little bit of chub work just at the finish. You're a sick little man. Is it actually a bet, or you just like the name?
No, it's actually a bet. It's got some progressive splits late. Jack Dickens, you'll know what that means. And I'm very keen to be playing at Randwick this Saturday.
Wow. So
Savatiano and Bangkok.
Tristan Mullihan sent me an email this morning. He says that there's been a lot of money for favourites, so it could be a wipeout for bookmakers, which is long overdue because it feels like they've been blessed for quite some time. There's been strong money for Young Rascal in race 7, 270 into 225. And Fun Star's been heavily back 320 into 270.
What do you make of it going back to the mile, Peter?
I've struggled to come into that horse. I don't really like it too much as a overall betting race, but I was happy to drift around Fun Star in that race. There's a couple of odds there, Amangiri and Conte Partillo, that should get into a nice spot on speed, and I think they'll be pretty difficult to get past. Fun Star from gate 12 will have to have a decision made very early on in the piece with that horse.
Thanks, mate. You've been enormous. It's a very big debut, and we'll probably have to have you on each and every week from now on.
That was Pete Anthonisz talking Sydney racing, and now we've got Ross Brodie talking isolation tips.
Sots, trots.
How are you, Ross?
G'day, Scooty. I'm well, mate. How you going?
Mate, I'm fantastic. I'm all the better for having you on the show.
Are you excited to debut on SEN, on Little Birdie?
Unbelievably excited. I was a little bit nervous, and I've had a bit of a crook throat, so I had an anti-cold just to get the breathing happening, and yeah, it's got me up and about.
Does anti-cold swab?
Nah, these are North American ones. Synthetic, can't swab for them.
Oh,
Just to put some context on that, punters, Ross is my left-hand man. I can't operate without him. I see him all the time, and I've not seen him go 1 week without a sore throat. So he's big on the anti-cold.
Roscoe, just to make sure you're up and about and that anti-cold's working, I'm going to just throw a curveball from the top. Obviously, George Pell's been released. Pretend that you're George Pell. You've pulled up at Glenrowan service station. What is the thing that you buy first?
You can only buy one thing.
Yeah, you can buy one thing. You go straight in the shop. What do you buy?
If I'm at that roadhouse and I've been in the clink like George has been, how long's he been in? 2 years or something? I don't even know.
405 days.
Yeah, straight to, if they look okay in the Bar-Marie, I would straight to a battered salve.
That is a beauty.
Pluto Park, yeah. At potato cake alongside it, but that'd be the first thing I'd look at. I'd assess the quality of most roadhouses. You can't go too wrong, especially on the Hume.
Oh, it was a trick question for me because a rookie would have just, gone from an ice cream or a drink or some sort of packeted food. But you obviously know that servo well. For me, I know that there's a McDonald's attached to it, and I'd go for a steam bun. If you haven't had a McChicken with a steam bun, you're not living. And if you've sacked McDonald's, go into a Macca's and have a steam bun. I'm not saying this because I'm an SEN, but I'll tell you what, that's what I'd be having if I was at Glenrowan, but I wouldn't be with George Pell. Now, let me just get another one under the belt. Roscoe, a tortina. Do you know what a tortina is?
No, I don't.
No, well, there's your homework.
Is it a type of ice cream?
No, it's for next week's show. I think it's an Italian. It's a chocolate wafer biscuit. I'd say it's a Kit Kat for an adult. Okay, and this is
just writing this down, Tortina. Yeah.
Okay, hang on. Let's get this on track. So Ross is on the show, punters, to help you and me get through this self-isolation, which is a new experience for me, but Ross is a little bit more experienced in this sort of setup. So Ross, I'm at home. I am bored shitless. The kids just gone to bed. The missus and I have got 3 hours max to have a bit of time together. What do we watch? What do we do?
Well, there's a very real differentiation between what you'd watch with Emma and what you'd watch one out. Well, there is in this household anyway. So we have shows that we watch. We've been watching together the F1 show on Netflix.
Ooh, yeah.
That's good.
Drive to 6E. Yeah. So we watched that one together. But one out, I've
Pornhub.
Recently just finished Wu-Tang, American Saga on Stan. I'm tipping that really strong.
All right, so I've sat down, and I'm starting to watch Wu-Tang. I've got Stan too, thank you. That's convenient because I'm sure not a lot of the listeners would have Stan. But we're sitting down and watching Wu-Tang. What do I eat? I'm hungry.
Okay, so with ISO, I personally have had to implement a few changes because you can't go to the supermarket as often. You've got to do the right thing. So depending on time of day, so I've discovered the snack-sized chips instead of the big packet, and then it basically forces self-control. They're very small, like it's definitely not sweet, but that's what I've been rolling with. I bought I think they're an 8-pack or something. There's a few left, surprisingly. So chips definitely.
Oh, now my mouth's salty. I'm salty. I need a drink or maybe an ice cream. What do I do?
Well, another thing that I've rediscovered during isolation is Barney Bananas. Gone back to the
Ooh.
old school. Value for money. They're one of the few that has remained relatively untouched. I'm laying paddle pops enormously. Like, they've changed their rainbow paddle pops are virtually uneatable now. They've changed their recipe and they're tiny. But yeah, I'm tipping Barney Bananas very strong.
Okay. I knew this would be good. All right, punters. So that was my man, our man, and now your man, Ross Brodie. So we're going to watch Wu-Tang on Stan. We've got to watch our eating patterns. We can't sort of start to binge eat, so we need to get the small packets of chips. And we're going to wash it down with a Barney banana. I don't know what that is.
No, they are outstanding. And I know what Ross is talking about. You're with Little Birdie, brought to you by Punting Form, Australia's leading sectional times database. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Little Birdie. I'm your host, Scoot, joined by Dicko. If you're still listening to us, you're probably in the car. You're probably on the way to buy some Barney bananas. But we're going to bounce our way over to Adelaide to talk Morphettville races this weekend with Shane Adair. Shane, what's your favourite ice cream?
My favourite ice cream, well, you probably can't say no. It's a little bit of maybe Ben & Jerry's, maybe, something along those lines. I am firstly very impressed with the
flying.
Stone Age. Fantastic.
Oh, yeah. You're either a tub man or a stick or a pre-packeted single type ice cream operator, and I steer clear of the tubs.
I'm a tub man into the M's is huge on the little Macca's cones. Like, we buy a packet of the Macca's cones, Jane, and each night we go to that ice cream o'clock. It is sweet. In we go.
Now, let's talk serious matters. We're looking for a winner over at Adelaide. The big races, the Hills Railway Stakes. We've got Bella Vella at $2.50 on Top Sport, opened up favourite from Bold Star $4.20. Tavasan is $5.50. Equal Love $6. $8 Beauty, and Bigger the rest. Who do you like?
Yeah, well, this race would have been run on Easter Saturday at Oakbank. Unfortunately, there is no Oakbank this year, but these feature flat races have carried over to Morphettville Parks this weekend. Look, it does look a race in two for mine between Bella Vella and Bold Star. At the odds, I'm happy to play Bold Star. I think a little saver on Bella Vella, who was excellent at Moonee Valley last start, as you would have seen, guys, powered away, turning from home. Does probably save her best for that Moonee Valley circuit. I think Bold Star is the class runner. There's a lot of speed engaged here. I think it'll be running on well. I had it marked around the $4 mark, so there's a little bit of value there. Save from Bella Vella, and they've got the rest beaten, I think.
We head to race 2 for one of your other little wagers on the card. What do you like in race 2 at Morphettville?
Well, we're talking about the class of Bold Star. This is another class runner of this field. It's Bramfield. It's put together some outstanding form on the West Coast in Port Lincoln. It comes to Adelaide today, meets a very winnable race in the Country Cup. I had it marked even money. It went up $2.50 yesterday. The Smarties jumped in. I missed it, of course. So we're into around that 12 to 10 sort of mark now. I think it will even start short. It looks extremely hard to beat after the claim for Lockie Neindorf, and I think we'll get the cash there early and we'll roll it into Bold Star.
Shane, just for the punters who were born in 1980 or later, what does 12 to 10 mean?
12 to 10. $2.20. How's that sound?
Thank you.
Yeah, Jack's a bit wet behind. Jack's a bit wet behind the ears. You'd have a couple of interesting little tales about Oakbank. It's probably one of the carnivals that I've missed, but the idea of sort of betting and camping and getting real grubby for 3 days is right up my alley.
Yeah, it certainly is. It's one of those race meetings where, you know, you're kicking the footy on the track in between races. Everyone's got the card table and deck chair set up on the running rail. Really good atmosphere. It's a shame the club can't go through with their meeting this year, but it's definitely worth putting down for next year, boys.
We might be getting a little bit of a sponsorship from Thoroughbred Racing South Australia. Thanks for joining us.
A little birdie.
Well, they've obviously got plenty. Like the race 6 is worth $100K. It's a listed race. We've got races at Caulfield on Saturday that are Group 3s for $150K.
Your prize money's been a hot topic. Thanks for joining us, Shane.
No worries, boys. We'll speak to you soon.
Good luck, mate.
We're going to go from Shane to Shane, and we're going to talk Queensland racing with Shane Ciurleo. The Mayor of Toowoomba joins us. Shane.
That's me. How are you?
Mate, a little birdie tells me...
Try and keep up, mate. Try and keep up.
He's in Queensland. They're about 10 years behind. Now, Shane, a little birdie tells me that you haven't watched episode or listened to an episode of Little Birdie, but you tuned in last week. Any reason why?
I'm my number one biggest fan for a start. And then when I seen the tweet that I was on the show, I made sure I listened in just to get the numbers up.
Now, what about last week? You've come on fresh on debut, and you've tipped one at 5s. What did it start?
220?
220.
What did it run?
Oh, we beat SP. That's the main thing that I looked at.
It was very unlucky. It was zigzagging all the way up the Gold Coast straight. I bet you can't get a horse to go $5 into 220 on today's show.
I'll give it a try. I'll have to find something that I can unload on personally, I suppose, to get it down there. But we want to get a good ride. Look, it's the usual thing, though, isn't it? Like you get one off the map and you cop a good ride, so it's not your fault. It's the jock's fault if it gets beat, sort of thing.
Yeah, 100%. Just got to beat SP, bro.
Now, looking at Doomben, what race are we going to steer into on Saturday?
Well, I'm not overly keen on the card, in its entirety, but there's a couple there that I think we can make money out of. I'm happy to start with race 2 if you like. I think there's a bit of an error here in the market.
What's that?
Well, I know it's only $2.50 Music Maker, but I think it starts shorter and wins. And Flash Patch is $3. I think it starts $8 and can't win.
Wow, that's
good.
That's a big edge. So looking at Top Sports Market, we've got race number 2, number 12, Music Maker, trained by David Van Dyke from barrier 10, $2.50. And then Flash Patch is Desley Foster, Mark Duplessis from barrier 7 is $3.20. So Shane's expecting big money Music Maker and a big drift for Flash Patch. Is there anything else on the card that you'd like to put our attention to?
Yeah, I don't mind race 3, actually. It's a pretty hot little race. We've got some speed here with Dusty Tycoon, the My Stable runner with 5,000 owners. They all have $10 on it off its trials leading into this prep. It'll start a lot shorter. Don't think it can win. I think there's good speed in the race. Charlie's Fiend, not a bad name, that. It's quick, snappy replies. The 6 is very quick as well. And you've got Dusty Tycoon with young Aidan Thompson, very aggressive jock out of the gates. So there could be some very solid speed here. Sets up nicely for Minji, last start winner.
Scooty's uncle trains.
Uncle Robbie.
Uncle Robbie,
Heathcote.
ex-Victorian rider. Stephanie
Must be a bloody
Thornton,
good
still
bloke.
claiming 1.5.
Any mail from Uncle Rob, Scooter, or what?
Yeah, well, you know what? He's a bit of trivia for you. His son's named Nicholas Heathcote, and I'm Nicholas Heathcote, but we are not related whatsoever. The only slight bit of the link there is we're both very good golfers. I think Rob's off single figures in the low numbers, and he loves a red wine. So that's any good reason to be sort of connected in some way. But
He looks
I'll
like
give him a call.
like a run walker too, like a walk runner.
Oh, fuck off!
Oh, you can't say that on the radio, Scooter. Did you bip that out, Jane?
Gonna have to. Thanks, Curly. We'll talk more Queensland racing next week. And with 7 years of historic benchmark data and ratings, punting form is the number one choice of horse racing professionals, and it should be your choice too. Thanks, Shane.
Cheers, guys.
Bye, mate.
Up next, we're talking all things track mail with the snow.
The snowman comes on in the know of the snow, clickety-clack, the snowman's back.
Welcome back to Little Birdie. It's almost Enter the Snowman time, but before that, let's talk about Caulfield Racing, and we'll talk to Jack about his best bets. And just on that note, if you've missed any of the show or part of the show and you like what you're hearing, head to www.littlebirdie.pod.com or find us on Twitter at littlebirdie.pod. Jack, the Caulfield card looks meaty again.
Big fields, railing the true. So I expect we're going to get decent tempo throughout the day, and I'm just going to work towards a fair to even track. It might be stupid to do so, but that's what we're going to do early. We're only going to talk about 2 races anyway, so we're going to have another 7 to get it back if we're wrong here. But last week was on pace. Most of recent meetings have been on pace, but I think with the rail back to the true, good amount of rain this week, we'll get a fair track. First race we're going to talk about is race 2, 1,100 metres. fillies and mares. I really like the setup and the profile of one horse in particular, number 2, Prophet's Thumb. Last preparation had one okay trial into a decent performance, and then 1 second up at Caulfield over 1100. The rail was in the true that day, so it's a get back run on horse, but typically the true rail position at Caulfield sets up well for that horse. There's enough speed here that I think the horse will get every possible. It loses Damien Thornton, Cops, Mark Zara, drawn barrier 5, Savage the line first up, strong SP profile versus everything here. I think it's an outstanding bet. What odds are we currently getting right now, Scooty, at topsport.com.au? Gamble responsibly.
Yeah, Top Sport, I got Prophet's Thumb. Bit of money for it, $5.50 into $5. And just while I got you, Anjana caught my eye, $6.50 into $6. Forgive first up run. Do you have it as a danger? Could you spike in?
Look, firstly, $5 is outstanding. I think Prophet's Thumb starts sort of $4 or south of. Now, trying to predict what a Lindsay Smith horse is going to do on a Thursday if it's racing on a Saturday would be like trying to predict when the COVID crisis is going to end. Impossible. Just wait and watch the market. If this thing's firm, it means Lindsay's trying. If it's soft, it ain't trying.
Bit of a head scratcher, as Darren Weird said.
Same with Music Bay, who brings a nice profile here. There's no public trials. I couldn't find anything yet. Map's okay, but I think we can let it go around without us at the current price and with its current setup and stats at Caulfield. The other race I want to talk about, Scooty, race number 3. It is a 1400-metre race for the 3-year-olds. Some progressive horses here, some half-exposed horses here. We've also got the Independent Road for the Hayes stable, which went around as another horse at Bendigo last start. Try and figure that one out. The horse I want to talk about, Hyington Station, P. Stokes, M. Zara, horse number 6. I think it gets a really nice run just in behind the speed. It goes from John Allen to Mark Zara, which I think is a really positive switch. It comes out of the good overkill race at Moonee Valley, where we've seen a stack of winners and also a stack of well-backed horses. Yesterday, Ocular, who was a good run in that overkill race, was absolutely slaughtered tactically by Shea Eden when he asked the 3 kilo claiming apprentice to ride midfield with cover, which is a very, very tricky thing to do. That horse, Savage the Line, was heavily backed at Sandown and probably should have won. You've also got horses like Neroni, who won on Wednesday, Oasis Girl, who won last Saturday. Every horse out of that race has improved its figure. I think this Hyington Station is a little bit progressive and looks a really, really good bet at around what price we're getting, 5s?
Yeah, it's $4.40, and you can tell Jack's not from Melbourne. Hyington Station.
Whatever. Horse number 6.
Now, let's cut quickly across to Snowy. I've just been told he's on the line. Snowman, you're on fire last week. I like your jabs into Dicko.
How are you, champion?
I'll tell you what, that was a little highlight for me, the champ called a Dicko. How'd you take that, mate?
Not well.
Now, Snowy...
About as well as Beneteau went.
Ooh.
Mate, I'll tell you what, I was getting very, very ahead of myself last week. I come on and declared Beneteau, then I was champing you, and I'll tell you what, the strut's not happening this week.
Now, I just want to talk to you about the strut. A little birdie told me that you've been sighted out on the tan with a bit of HH, and I call HH holding hands.
Holding hands, really?
Yeah, so do you want to shed a bit of light on your little trots around the tan with someone in particular, or we say that for another day?
I think that might be for another day, but I don't know where you're getting your little birdie information from. I have been trotting the tan, trying to keep in a bit of nick, but definitely no holding hands.
We might have to take that one into the steward's room and...
I think this might be from our own BZ, I'm thinking.
Oh, look, I don't give away my sources.
There was a little wander around the tan with a filly, but there was definitely no holding hands.
1.5 metres apart. Now, Snowy, let's talk punting and give us your best. I think
he's been inside the hut again for the punter and the listener at home. He's been inside the Caulfield hut. He's not in person, obviously, because with the COVID restrictions upon us, but he's on speakerphone. Snowy, what did he get for us?
I did call the boys up, and they all had me on loudspeaker having a bit of a chat. And I don't know Adelaide form all that well, but they have sent a couple over this weekend. And Henry Dwyer in race 3, he's got a lightly raced horse second up, and he was very keen on its chances, number 8. So he sent that one through for In the Know.
Which race?
Race 3, number 8.
Night Express.
Oh, it's been 4.
Night Express.
4 into 380 early at Top Sport.
Yeah, so there has been some early money, and he does have a good strike rate there, Henry. So hopefully that can continue.
Jack's mate.
And
no, it's actually quite. Just before you finish there, Snowy, one thing I do is profile trainers and where they spike and where they drop off. Henry's stats at Morphettville are better than you'd expect.
Yeah. So I hope that does continue. Then Mick Price has given me one. Race 6, number 2, I think it was, Tavistan. It's also got a very good first up record, and it has gone over there. And Mick was very keen on its chances.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's up against Shane Adair's best bet there, which is Bold Star. So that's going to be an absolute cracking edition of the race. Snowy.
So before we finish, from a Benetoy level launch or to a sort of Wild Planet launch in your early days when you were just sort of dipping your toe in, how hard are we going this week?
Well, they were 10 out of 10s, them ones, but I think this week we could probably go 7 out of 10 for both each runners this week.
Thanks, Snowy. Well, it's been a big show, Jack. Best on ground? Roscoe.
That's moral.
Yeah, Roscoe was very good.
Ross Sott's Brodie was enormous on debut. I thought Ian Snoozeness was big, brought a high level of energy, articulate. It was a good show. I thought Jake Norton answered a few proper questions, and I was impressed by the way he dealt with it. We learned something there. We were a bit serious, and then we really, really sort of let down and had a bit of fun. The Snowman was a bit sheepish, a little champion. He'll bounce back, hopefully, with a couple of winners over there at Morphettville.
It's time to get essential supplies with Barney Bananas on the way home, I would have thought.
I have to Google what they are, but I'm going to find some.
See you next week.